Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Gardener's Shed podcast. And in this episode today, we've got a lot to sort of get caught up on. There's been another little mishap this week. There's been broken equipment. And like I said, it's just one of them really. I think in many ways it's the reality of running a gardening business, I'm afraid. And what I want to do in this episode, the main sort of subject, is to actually talk about how we are sort of viewed by other trades, and more so in regards to, there was a video posted up on social media, TikTok, Instagram, all that, from the Bold Builders. I'm sure you've seen it. In a weird way, if you haven't seen it, by people talking about it, it's sort of perpetuating it and putting it around, so to speak. But, I'll have a chat about that, and I'll talk about how I see our place a little bit later on. So, again, this week I'll have a little bit of a chat about that as well. Next week's episode, there's going to be a guest ep, and I've just done another guest step with another chap, that was really good actually. What I'm thinking about doing is I might do So what I try and do is a podcast, a guest step once a month. But I think coming up to winter, and if I can get more people on, I might try and do one more than a month. Sorry, I might try and do them more than a month. More than one a month if I can. So that's about it really. Next week's a guest step, and then 2 weeks from then, it's going to be back to the usual format, so I'll be able to update you on what's been happening. So, let's get on with it then, shall we? So, this week's gone alright, in all fairness. There's a couple of setbacks. I honestly think, though, there's always going to be setbacks. There's always problems. I always feel sometimes like, without sounding melodramatic, it does feel like you're putting out fires sometimes. But it is what it is. It's just part and parcel of running a business. I broke another window, I've talked about it on a separate YouTube video. So, what we'll talk about with the window is, I think no matter what you do, accident-wise, I think there's two things. I think it's one, you've got to cover your own back and look after your business first. Obviously, you're going to do the right thing, but I think the world we live in now, you need to look after yourself first, your business first, your interest first. So I always say, if ever something happens on your watch, obviously sort it out, but protect yourself first. Take pictures, take video, take before you can't take before pictures, but just get as much evidence as you can. Write it down in a diary so it's fresh in your mind. Just do whatever you can to sort of protect yourself. And also, as well, as if you do, make a mistake, in air quotes, try and look for the positives in terms of, so we've broken another window. My customer now knows that I will stand by it. If I cause a problem, I'll sort it. And then as well, the next door neighbour knows that as well. And by de facto, I was talking to his gardener actually, and he actually knows. And so another gardener knows that if there is a problem, Sam will look after it and SGM will look after it. And I think that's invaluable, really. Okay, it costs 200 quid, but it is what it is at the end of the day. So the hedge trimmers, the HLA 135, they've broken. I have decided now that I honestly think if you get more than 2 seasons out of it, you get 2 years warranty. I'm sure I've read somewhere that if you buy the tick, you actually get an extended warranty up to 3 years. So I'm going to ring Still up and just query that. So I bought a set of HLA 135s a couple of years ago, and in all fairness, they're the best long reach hedge trimmer I've used. They are really, really good. They are, they're good. I can't say anything more about them. But they do break. They do wear out. They do break. I had a problem about 6 months ago with them where the bolt inside sheared off, so it had to have a full rebuild, full repair. I have no idea why they didn't stick a new head on it. Instead, they just chose to replace parts. Which I just don't understand it, because the price they gave me before it went through under warranty was like 370 quid. A new head's only 295 quid. No idea. So this time around they broke again, and I knew that at this point in time, I think they weren't covered under warranty. I've just got to question it with Still. So I decided to take them. I went and bought another set. So I had a hedge reduction booked in on the Thursday. They broke on the Monday evening. So I was like, okay, this is, not good. And they broke as I was doing another reduction. And basically, I just think what ended up happening was a little gear, a little cog sheared off inside of it. And it's just dust, basically. So I ended up ringing around all the local dealers. I looked online. I couldn't get anybody that can guarantee delivery on Thursday. So I thought, you know what? I actually ended up going to Buxton's. It's near to Penkridge and Cannock. And you know what? This isn't a shout out, as in, they haven't asked me to do this. But if ever you are after tools and you are that way, I would say go to there. It is amazing what a fully stocked dealer looks like. They've got Ego, Still, Husqvarna, Honda, Toro, Hater. They've got loads of other machinery, chippers, shredders, moss brush, weed brush, you name it. It's all there. They've got all the climbing stuff, PPE, literally everything. It's the biggest dealer I've ever seen. So yeah, I had a proper good look around. So I ended up buying a replacement set of HLAs. Mine have gone in for repair to see what they can say. So I'm going to chase Still up and see if, they will honour a warranty on it and see what they can do. But we'll see on that. If not, what I've said is just put a new head on it, and then they will go as a spare, basically. While I was there, I bought a couple of folding Men at Work signs. I did a reduction last week where I was working on the pavement, and I've got a job next week actually where I'm working on the road, so I want to sort of get some signs. It's just to cover my back, but I think even then people are idiots. Like, I put, like, where I was working the other day, there was 2 pavements. You cross the road to get to the other one. So I put cones up, I put ton bag up one side to block the entrance. So as I was cutting, there was loads of clippings, and I saw this old guy climbing over the ton bag to get round. I'm like, what are you doing? You're trying to get a claim, you know what I mean? And then, in all fairness, most people did move out the way or move on to the other side. I know it's a sketchy area, you shouldn't be blocking pavements, but what can you do in that situation? Literally, what can you do? If you went to the extreme end and had the road, the pavement closed and traffic lights, I honestly think people would still climb over and try. They're just silly, some people are. So I bought some signs, and they fold up, and they've got hedge cutting and all that. I think pretty nice actually, pretty good quality. So they're in the container now. We're getting now into the leaner parts of the year, so we're halfway through October. So I'm being very careful with spending, even though I've just spent on that. I think that's going to be probably one of the last things that I spend on. It's just trying to sort of, keep a little back. I've got my little pot put away for winter, so I should be all right on that. I haven't had my appointment. I rung up the secretary, so I think I've mentioned this before. I'm waiting on an operation over Christmas. I've got to have a hernia op. So I'm actually waiting for the consultation from the consultant. So, again, my advice to you, if you were going anything through the NHS, chase them up. Don't let them decide, because they'll do what's convenient for them, and I honestly think it's more convenient for them to keep people on lists. So I rung up about 2 weeks ago, and his secretary was away for 2 weeks, so I rung her on the day she got back, and I booked an appointment. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think she wanted to book one. She said, "Oh, I'll have to have a word with him, all this." I said, "Well, it's on my file that there should be an appointment booked for now." She's like, "Oh, well, let me have a look." "Okay, I can see that, but the earliest we've got is 14th of December. I'm like, "Okay, well, that will have to do." So I don't think my op's going to be before Christmas, by the sound of it. I think it's going to be after Christmas. It's only a hernia op, and to be fair, it does cause me problems, but not a huge amount of problems. But the annoying thing is, if they decide, oh, it's actually the earliest we can get you in is going to be like May, I'll just have to say no, I need it doing next Christmas instead. Because I can't. It's one of them, you should never, ever, ever, put your well-being on hold for your business, because at the end of the day, you rely on it. Your body, you need it in good nick. But I think sometimes you have to you have to see what's best for everybody, don't you, really? How I look at it is the hernia sometimes causes a problem, very rarely. It's been behaving itself. I've been losing the weight, so I've been looking after myself. I'm hoping to lose more weight by, if we do have the op next year. So, yeah, we'll just have to see, really. It's just frustrating, but it is what it is. I suppose it's the price we pay for having free healthcare, in air quotes. But anyway, so like I said, keep saving, keep putting the money away. Winter-wise, I'll be honest with you, it's looking so far like I've got enough work on. I had a chat with one of my commercial clients today. I very rarely see him, but he turned up as I was mowing. I just finished a job, and he's like the big boss. So he knows nothing really of what I do. He knows what I do, but he says to me, "Oh, you're still coming fortnightly to do the verge," and the last cut is actually booked in for 2 weeks from now. And he says to me, "Oh well," he says, "Luke, could you just come once a month now until the next season to maintain the car park, get the leaves up and stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, it's better than what I expected. So I said, "Yeah, it's no problem." I said, "I'll come in 2 weeks' time to get all the weeds up and stuff like that, and I'll do the grass in 4 weeks, and I'll be back again a month from then to keep on top of the place." So it's worked. It's always surprises me sometimes in this industry how things seem to, let's just say, fall into place sometimes. So I've been cracking on with the house clearances today. We've just finished. I finished one last week or the week before. That's completely empty now. That's going to go up for sale. So that's switched over to fortnightly maintenance. And then this next one, I've partially cleared it. I'm going to go up tomorrow, and hopefully by tomorrow it's completely empty. And then that can be, again, ready to be processed and ready to go up on the market. And then what ends up happening is this is why I like doing the clearances. It's not just the initial money you get from the clearance, it's the insurance checks and it's the garden maintenance. So they're going to go, both of them are going to go to fortnightly visits, where I'll be going up every fortnight, checking the place is secure, checking the place is dry, not been burgled, even though there's nothing in there. Also handling any sort of administrative tasks, so if I have to get keys dropped off to here, or if I have to meet somebody there, or and also keeping on top of the garden. And that goes on until the property is sold, and then that goes on until the property is handed over. So it could be, I've had it before where it's took a year for it to go through, be sold, and it's like I said, it's fortnightly visits, so it's well worth me sticking by them and doing them, basically. So that should be emptied by tomorrow. And then, there's other work booked in. I'm going up to see another client on Monday to have a chat with him about, he's just bought another property, so see what he wants to do. In gutters, I've been doing my usual Facebook campaign. Every time I've posted on Facebook, I've gotten some form of inquiry or work. So, I had an interesting phone call, actually. Do you ever get this? And I feel like saying no to the job already. I had a phone call off a chap, and he wants a gardener. He wants a gardener for next year. Okay, that's fair enough. But he wants me to go and look at the garden now. And I says to him, well, look, it's really going to be better for me to look at it next year, and then we can go from there. He says, oh, well, we just want to have a chat with you. And I think they want to suss me out first. That's fair enough. Now, it's about 20 minutes away, and I'll be honest with you, the work it's described, I think it's just border maintenance, and basically I think it's garden maintenance. No grass, just shrubs, hedges, borders, etc. I says to him, no problem at all. I says, but what I'm going to do is I did arrange to go with him in the week to go and see him, but I got rained off, and he rung me that night. He said, oh, you've not turned up today. I said, I'm going to give you a call. I says, it's been horrific. He said, oh yeah, well, we didn't think you'd come anyway, so we went out. I'm like, okay then. I says to him, I think the easiest thing is, I says, do you need me to do any work for you at all this season? He says, no, it's all next season. I says, well, I tell you what, I says, I will, whenever I've got some free time, I'll come to you. I said, I do not know when it is. I says, I don't want you to wait in for me. Anything of the sort. I said, I'll give you a call. I said, I'll give you, half an hour notice. If you're in, you're in. If you're not in, I'll rearrange for another day. And he's rung me up every week. This was coming up for a few weeks ago. He's rung me up once a week to see when I'm coming. And, don't get me wrong, I should have really nipped it. I can see it on his end. He's probably thinking, well, he's not interested. But then I see it on my end. In the grand scheme of things, I think he just wants to chat, or to meet me. And I can understand it. But, it's one of them. We've all got our own worlds to live. I've got, at the moment, I'm super busy. I've been tucking into the weekends. The nights are drawing, and I'll be honest with you, I've tried to draw a line under my working hours, as in, once it gets to 5 o'clock, that's it really. I want it to be finished. Because other than that, the nights are drawing. I think the clocks go back this week. Is it this week or next week? So we're going to lose an hour at night. So this chap will just have to wait until I can get up to him, really. I'm not making a purposeful trip, and I'm not going to go on a Saturday or Sunday to him. So as I just said, one of the things I've been trying to do all season is to avoid working Saturdays and Sundays. But I must admit, I have been tucking into him lately. And it's that old thing of, you make hay while it shines. I can feel, like I said, I can feel the nights coming in. I can feel the weather's changing. We're having a solar on the camper van. I know that there's less sun. There's been a couple of days where I've not even seen the sun. It's been overcast all the time, and I can see that we're getting less sun. That the nights are drawing in, so it is getting very much wintry. And I'll be honest with you, I want to make as much hay while I still can. So as I said, I have been tucking in on the weekends and getting all that sort of jazz done and dusted. So, winter-wise, work-wise, I've had a couple of people say, is this the last cut? I've had a couple of people say, this is the last cut. And I've said to both of them that, in my professional opinion, it's not. I've got everybody else booked into at least halfway through November. And the faces of, honestly, the smiles falling off her face. And I says to him, look, I said, it is growing now it's growing more now than it has all season. And I did one lady's lawn where she is like the middle lawn. So there's grass, the other side's grass touches her grass. And you can see how much. So as I've cut it on the same height all season. And she can see how much it's grown. It's, like I said, anyway, it is what it is at the end of the day. I've said to all the people who've wanted to cancel early, well, not cancel early, but finish early, I've said to all of them that I've booked time for you, basically. I've still booked you in. If you need it, you need it. If you don't, it's fine. I'll call you the night before. And then hopefully a couple of them think, oh, God, it has grown. Sam was right. We'll have to see. I have got one guy I'm supposed to be going back and doing another cut. But 2 weeks ago, he told me it was the last cut. He's done this every single year, where he has his last cut is at the end of September. and his friends tell him it needs cutting more often. His family have told him. I've told him. It looks horrific. It really does. And his lawn, he has it fed a couple of times a year. I think he only had a feed treatment put down a few weeks ago, or last month. And it just grows like crazy. It's a weekly cut as well during the season. I've never understood it where people, and I think it is, it's the power of stubbornness in the terms of this bloke's never ever, he's always stopped cutting at the end of September, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we have Sahara-like weather and, heat waves all the time and perfect conditions, he will finish cutting at the end of September. He, as I said, his friends tell him, his family tell him, I've told him, and it looks horrific. But the thing is, he's partially sighted, so he can't even see it. When he looks outside, he just sees green. He doesn't know how long it is, so anyway. It's what it is, guys. It's just another quirk of running a business. So, the subject for this video is just sort of like the public opinion of gardeners, and almost a sort of a reaction, not a reaction to this video that these two chaps have put up, but the clip's out there. It's on UK Garden Maintenance. I think Pete the Tattooed Gardener, he did a video talking about it, where he shows the actual clip. I'll be honest with you, I don't want to share the clip and and then put up a thing like, do you agree with this, because it's just spreading it around even more. And again, I don't want to really sound disrespectful, because me personally, I'm very proud that we do live in a country, as good and bad as it is, we are lucky that we have got free speech for the most part. There's countries out there where if you don't like the president, you don't like the leadership, you don't like the way it's done, you're doing hard labour. And it does exist. People say it doesn't. It does exist. There's plenty of places out there. We are lucky to live where we live, basically. And these two blokes, the ball builders, that's their opinion. So before I went self-employed, I used to work for a building company, and I used to look after the holiday lets, and I also look after the lawns on the new builds. So I was interacting with builders, and I'll be honest with you, the builders that I interacted with, the vast majority of them, they were not like the bull builders in terms of their outlook. They saw me as just another bloke earning a crust. There was no, I never felt it. I never felt like, the guy he is mowing the lawn, he's a criminal. I think there's a point where he said that people who do gardening are criminals or something like that. I haven't watched the whole podcast because, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of... It's not that I'm not a fan of them two, I'm not a fan of that style. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to commit time to, finding the episode and then listening to the episode. I think I've heard what I need to off the clip. Then again, I could be totally wrong, and I'm willing to eat my own words if I am. Maybe... the 30 seconds before that clip and the 30 seconds after that clip put that in a totally different perspective. It is a clip that's been shared by I think it's their producers. And you don't know with these big podcasts, you don't know whether it's scripted or they've got prompts, and that's their catch to get people in. Unfortunately, with social media now, it's all about engagement, and unfortunately, negative and bad engagement actually gives a same or better response than positive. One of the things I am proud of, and I'll be honest with you, this is one of the reasons I like doing social media, is I actually found a video on TikTok, and I went onto the comment section, and you know what, there was a few hundred comments. I only scrolled down, I didn't go through all of them. I'm sure the mouth breathers were more towards the bottom. But you know what? Every comment that I saw, as I just kept flicking through, there was other blokes that are in our industry posting pictures up. There was other people who were very politely and very professionally pointing out that these people were wrong. And I think, in all fairness, it wasn't just the usual, you're wrong, you're a knob, or even people agreeing with him. I didn't see, well, as far as I scanned, I didn't see any people that were like, yeah, gardeners are idiots, gardeners are thickos. It was actually very, very professional from the people who replied back, as in our trade. So again, credit to the people like that. And normally TikTok, the thing, the social media comment section on there is like a cesspit. So when I used to be around the building site, as I said, I never felt like they looked down upon me. And I'll be honest with you, when I look at Joe Blogg's public, I don't think we're looked down upon at all for what we do. I don't think people look down on our industry at all. I think the majority don't. I think the minority there is. There'll always be people that, I've said this before, there's always people out there that we should work for nothing in their eyes and be proud to work for nothing. There's people out there that have lost touch on society. So when they retired, minimum wage was X amount, and therefore it still is in their world, so we should be a little bit above that, so we should be charging £8 an hour. And there is people like the Bull Build as well. I'll be honest with you, the comments were very biased, very negative, very derogatory, very, the only way I can describe it is, when I used to, I honestly think either they've had a bad experience, both of them, or alternatively they could have just done it for clout. They could have just done it to, like I said, they've shared that video of that their media company. They've shared it. It's not like somebody in our industry has heard it and then clipped it, then sent it. They've chosen to send it. So maybe it is just a case that they've done it for clout, done it for reaction, done it for, a kick-off, basically. And I suppose in a way it's worked because we're talking about it, we're engaging with it, we've commented on it. Or they have, both of them, have had negative experiences. So they've hired a gardener that's turned up in trackies and trainers, done a terrible job, and given them impression that that's what everybody's like. Or what I actually think it is, unfortunately, is I think in their world they were probably working, for X amount per hour, whether they were working for somebody or working by themselves, and they've seen and heard what we can earn, or what they've been around what we can earn. I remember a few years ago I did a job for somebody. I did a hedge and I did lawns, and the bill came to £200. And I went to knocked on for payment, and she said, "Oh, I'll give you cash." How much was it again? So it's £200. And while I was there was another, I don't know what he was, whether he was electrician, plumber, decorator, I don't know. And he looked at me, he looked at her, and he goes, "Oh, it's all right for some, isn't it?" And I was like, I don't think he maybe he was joking, but how I took it was he was a bit sort of surprised by that. And I was looking at him and I was thinking, well, if I was in that situation and, you were getting paid £200 and I was waiting to have a chat with a customer, I wouldn't dream of saying that. I wouldn't even dream of making light of it, because, you don't know what behind the scenes goes on. You're just seeing somebody getting £200 cash for hedges and lawns, but then you don't see the equipment, the training, the kit. It's like, like in the Bull Builders world, when they're on site, and when I was on site, there was, or around the site, should I say, there was blokes that turned up with a battered bag, with hand tools and a drill, and that's it. Then there was other blokes who would turn up and they'd, wheel out the Festool on the kickstand with a chop saw, with the dust extractor, that's one joiner. There'd be another joiner there who'd just have a, bits of both, you know what I mean? And again, they all do the same thing, but it's, well, people have took time in building a business or building their sort of skill set through tools. And like I said, I genuinely think these, Bull builders, if they haven't had anything bad done to them and they're just looking in from the outside in, they can't picture themselves earning the money what we can earn or doing a job what we can do. Maybe they're in a job, well, probably not now if they do podcasting full time, but when they were working, they might sort of, have looked at it and thought, well, why are they doing that? I can't do that, so therefore they can't. And we'll shout them down for it. Who knows? But I just think it's their opinion. They're entitled to it. We know what we put into our business. We know what it goes into our business. I did a hedge reduction job the other day, and I think I've done a short on it, and I was looking at it. I was looking in the back of the van because I went and did another one, so I didn't even put my tools away. I just left them all in the back of the van. And I had the trailer on, and the trailer was like 600 quid. And then in the back of the van, I used the blower, the pole saw, the long reach edge trimmer, the handheld edge trimmer. I used the GTA-40, which is a little handheld chainsaw. I used the KebTech pruners. There's like £3,000 worth of kit there to do, a £100 job. It is. And yeah, you can, hand tool it, but you'll be there 3 times as long. But what do you then do? Do you pass that on to the customer, and the customer's paying a fortune for that? Or do you do a job and knocker rate and £20 an hour it? Well, I know which camp I'd rather be in. So yeah, I'll finish my chat up on the board builders now, guys. Like I said, it is what it is. It'll be forgotten about in a couple of weeks. Yeah, it's just one of them, unfortunately. And again, with social media, I didn't listen to the whole of it at all, like their podcast app. They could have spent 30 seconds very sort of, like I said, the conversation could be different. And, if you clip halfway through a conversation, it can sound completely different to the whole conversation. Who knows, guys? But all I can say is on our end, I think we've held up. We've done the best that we can. Coming up as a guest step next week, and then following week it's going to be back to Thingy. I think I mentioned it. I've finally managed to get the podcast onto Apple Podcasts. It seems, touch wood, to be behaving itself, and everything seems to be going where it needs to be going. So we're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and then YouTube, and then I think I'm going to get it on Podbean because I'm paying for that bloody membership anyway, so I may as well get it up on there and make some use of it. So yeah, another thing as well, I signed up to the affiliate program for KebTech. The idea is it's just to bring a little bit of money in for the channel to just keep the lights on. With doing the podcast, it's, I think with the Podbean subscription and the add-on, it's costing £240 or £250 a year for the hosting of that, and also the package that I use for doing it wirelessly. And then all of the MISC little upgrades, like buying things here and there. So I've set up that just to try and get a little bit of money back in, if I'm being honest with you. It's up to you. How it is if you buy something from KebTech Store. So I've been using the KebTech pruners for a couple of months. If you go on to any of the Facebook groups, Garden Maintenance UK, stuff like that, type in KebTech, you'll see hundreds of people that have bought over the years. You will see, tens of people where there's been a problem and KebTech have sorted it. I had a problem, KebTech have sorted it. A bloke had the pole arrive bent like a banana, KebTech sorted it. So they are good, and it's 5% discount. I did see if he can do a bigger discount but knock back what I earn off it, but it's set at whatever it is, and basically you get 5% off what's there. So you're not, it's not like they're bumping the price up and then you're getting 5% off. You get 5% off, and then they just give me a kickback, and it's not much at all. Like I said, it's keeping the lights on. So if it is that you want setting them KebTech pruners, I won't push it, as in I won't keep mentioning it, but obviously if I use it in a video a lot, I'll mention it probably partway through the video. But I'll just put it in the show notes. So the code, if you're interested, is capital G, so it's GARPOD5. And then yeah, if you want 5% off, that's it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not afraid to say this. If something else comes up along the way that can benefit you guys, because that's what it does ultimately. People are a bit dirty guts over it, but it does benefit you. You're getting money off, basically. regardless. So if something else comes up for something good, I won't sign up for something that's like junk. But the Chemtechs, I'm happy to use them, and everybody's been happy with using them. So yeah. Anyway, guys, that's enough sort of behind the scenes chat when it comes to it. But like I said, I've not mentioned it much, but it has been setting up a podcast. It's been so much harder than I thought. The audio issues, and I think I've gotten better at it. They aren't perfect because it's one of them where you can get it close to good or good and spend X amount, but it's marginal gains after that. I was speaking to another podcast crew, and they've spent like £400 on the mics, and they got 2 mics. We got 3 because they got a guest mic as well. It's just crazy. And again, the hosting, and it's like Apple. It took literally months to get to the bottom of it, and in the end, I basically switched it back on, switched it off, and then back on, and it worked. So again, it's like that, and Spotify, and the YouTube was pretty straightforward, to be fair. But I'm not afraid to admit it. The plans are for the podcast and the YouTube is I'd like to look at it in years' time, and I'm thinking, you know what, in 5 years' time, I think I've done 30 episodes. I do roughly an episode a week, so I've done 30 episodes. So in a couple of years' time, we'll be hitting the 100-odd episode. And I'd like to think by then it's a little bit of a different thing, a little bit more polished, a little bit more thingy. I'm reaching out all the time to people to come on the podcast. It is hard, and I could understand why people don't want to do it. But if it is you do want to come on the podcast, do it. I've reached out to a few people. I reached out to a couple of lady gardeners, and they both said to me that I don't think I'd be interested. I says, no, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a story. Don't think you need to be on YouTube. Don't think you have to have subscribers of any sort. If you're running a gardening business, we want to hear about it. We want to hear how you got started, how you got your first customer, your nightmare customers. People love to hear that. So yeah, as I said, if you want to appear on the pod, I have set up an email for it, thegardenersshedpod@hotmail.com, and then there's a Facebook group as well, so message through that. Links are all in the description anyway. So as usual, guys, have a good day, keep on gardening.